Well, hi, it's Pete Kramer with Pete Kramer Media and Lights Up, the High School Theater Podcast. In the middle of musical season, we're taking a little break today to talk about non-musicals, about straight plays. And I'm so happy that it's brought Cyndi Feinman to the podcast this week. Cyndi is the director at Rye Neck High School in Mamaroneck. And the brainchild behind the Eastern Student Artist Guild Awards, which you started, Cyndi, in 2024, right?
Yeah, this is our third year, so yeah, 2024.
So the ESAG Awards, as we call them, came about because you wanted to honor non-musical plays. You felt like, tell me about how that came about.
Sure. So I come from Long Island, where there are no awards except for the Roger Rees. And there's something called I think it's like the Hunting Tonys or something like that, but those are only for a few towns. So when I came to Westchester and I was introduced to the Metros, that was a huge thing for me, because I was like, oh my God, there's an award ceremony. That's crazy. And it's huge. So, and everyone was talking about the Metros. And
just to bring our listeners who may not be familiar with the Metros, the Metro Awards are hosted by the Helen Hayes Youth Theater in Nyack, and they cover high school musicals from Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Bergen counties. So it's a wide swath. It's like 100, almost 80 to 100 schools almost every year, and they come together and there's a big ceremony, and it's a big deal. So I'm sorry just for context. Go ahead, Cyndi.
So it was very eye-opening for me that there were these award ceremonies out there, and it was the first year that I had ever participated in anything like that in 2023. So fast forward to the following school year, the 23-24 school year, I had always put in a lot of hard work and dedication to the plays that I direct, as well as the musicals. And there were students that were putting in everything they had to the plays that we were doing. And there were some kids that I had as well that expressed that they had no interest in auditioning for the musical, because the play is really what their strong point was. And I had kids that were really, really passionate about dramatic acting and wanted to pursue BFAs in acting instead of musical theater. And so me being finally, aware of all of these new award ceremonies, I started doing research. I said, okay, let's have these students recognized. So I did a quick search, and there was nothing. Wow. There's pretty much nothing out there for these students. So I said, that's impossible. There has to be something that these students can be recognized in. And I dug a little deeper. There were thespies that you can be evaluated on, but it was a very broad thing. And we also weren't able to go to that award ceremony because it's always the week of graduation. It's held in the middle of America, where, a lot of the school districts end much earlier than New York schools. So I said, okay, so there might be a need on the Eastern Coast, at least, for something like this. So sure. I came up with the worst name ever. And I said, I know, I'll put it out there, and I'll just have to create a name so it sounds like it might be something. So I put together the WAGs, like a dog wagging their tail, the Westchester Artists Guild. And I said, I just sent out an email. And at that point, you hadn't had the email chain of all of the Westchester theater teachers.
Right.
So I was kind of going onto everyone's websites and trying to find email addresses. And I was not that successful. I think I found maybe 20 teachers. And I said, hey, everyone, I'm trying to put together a Westchester theater recognition ceremony for the kids who participate in our plays. Would anyone be interested in helping me get that off the ground?
Sure.
And one person responded almost immediately, which was Christina Bowerly from Worcester. And she said, "Oh my goodness, I've been, looking for something like this. Yes, our students put in all of this hard work to the plays as well as the musicals, but there's really nothing to recognize the plays."
Sure.
So the two of us started to talk about what that might look like. And we put together a terrible model. It was the first time out of the gate. It was not a very good model of what
It
this
was
was.
based on height. The kids
Yeah,
were.
it was like it was. To be honest, I forgot what it was. I just remember it being terrible. And so we said no one's going to participate in this. It was like way too much legwork for teachers, and it was too much work for kids. They were like writing, they were like trying to put together portfolios, and it was just all over the place. So we said, okay, let's rethink, let's go back to the drawing board so that maybe we could get some more schools to participate in this. So we put together award categories that wouldn't necessarily make sense for musicals, because what we didn't want was to directly compete with the existing awards ceremonies. We didn't want it to be the Metros versus the ESAG, the Roger Rees versus the ESAG. Like we didn't. And at that point, we decided to make it ESAG, not WAGs. We were like, ESAG sounds way better. Eastern Student Artist Guild sounds way better.
Guild makes it seem official too, right?
Yes, like the WAGs. I don't know. There was something more official about it. So we were trying to make it so specific to plays that there wasn't any way that anyone could possibly think we were trying to compete with their organizations. We said we have to make it so specific to straight plays that that would still allow our students to participate in these other events, because they really enjoy doing that, and we didn't want to take away any opportunities by us being associated with this. That was like a very big fear at the beginning, that we were going to be like associated with this, and that we would kind of get rid of our chances of participating in these other things. So we came up with overall comedy, overall drama. We kept it as actors instead of actor, actress, so that anyone could submit for being evaluated for their acting, and then supporting acting. And we had plays for social change. We had plays for student written plays, because that's also something that's not evaluated. And because the first year we had no idea what we were doing. Really, we were inventing it as we were going. We made it more competitive than I was hoping to. So my goal was to make it non-competitive, because all of the kids were competing with these other awards, especially the Roger Rees Awards, where you're only selecting 2 per school, and it becomes a little bit more it's friendly competition, but we wanted to take that away, and we didn't know how to. But that didn't matter, because we only had 7 schools. So we're like, all right, let's put it out there, see what we can do, see who wants to participate. And we ended up getting, I'm probably going to leave a school out, but we had Rye Neck, Portchester, Eastchester, Scarsdale, Fordham Prep, Valhalla, and
Children's Shakespeare at that point,
Children's Shakespeare Theater. So we had 7, and we needed a location. So the first year we ended up at Manhattanville. I was able to, finagle a deal with them to use their lowest price space,
Right.
which they ended up giving to us, but it was a room that I don't know what it was. It was you were there. It was a room.
It was a very bright room for theater, as I
Very
recall.
bright room. Um, and that was it. They were like, all
Yeah.
right, here's a table and here's a podium and here's a microphone and here's some chairs. Do what you
But and
want
you
with
know what? When you think about it, Terry O'Brien, who started Hudson Valley Shakespeare, 40 years ago or however long ago it was, said all you need for theater is an actor, a text, and an audience, and you had
it.
all three.
Yes,
And what
I
was
say that all the time. I said,
yeah,
give me space and I'll make a play. Like that's kind of
yeah,
my MO. But yeah, so I said, okay, this is what we have. This is what we will do. And we put signs up. We had to people had to walk up several flights of stairs to get there. They found it, and we said,
right.
okay, we're going to be really there are only 7 schools, so we have to be really creative with the time because otherwise the ceremony that we're inviting all of these people to is only going to take 15 minutes. So, so we,
Not very gildy. It's got to be.
yeah.
It's got to feel.
So
It's
we
got to
were
be more
like, okay,
Broadway.
we have to fluff this up a little bit. Um, so I invited my cousin, who is a Broadway actor, to be our keynote speaker,
That's
Jesse
great.
Arrington.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was willing to do it for free, just talk about his career in acting.
And he had
Um,
been in Leopoldstadt, right? So
yes,
he was
yes.
fresh off of that at that point.
Yeah, he was, and he does a lot of he does a lot of film now, but I think he is an understudy in something right now, but
Yeah.
he does the Broadway circuit well.
No, but the beauty of that was his speech was about kind of connection and making sure that you're being intentional about what you're doing and the value of what the kids were doing, which is what they needed to hear. In that room, as I recall it, Cyndi, it was like full. There was a ton of people there.
Yeah, no,
Parents,
it was.
grandparents. It was a great turnout. But
Yeah,
yeah, can we just pause just for a second and talk about why why it's why recognition is important. I mean, it's attention, right? That's there's right over your head right now. There's a little spotlight with my logo in it, and my thing is all about shining a light on what student artists are doing, and I think there's people kind of just can dismiss it as, oh well, it's just kind of it's just high school theater, but it's not just high school theater.
right.
The importance of what the kids are doing in the fall drama and the spring musical, except for Scarsdale, which reverses those, is that all of that work and all of that intention and all of those hours and all of that thought that goes into that from those kids, that to quote Arthur Miller, attention must be paid, right? There's value in that, but also because the awareness leads to advocacy and
That's
leads
where
to
yeah.
yeah. So talk a little bit about why this. You talked, I think, early on the first year about leveling the playing field, about how important it
Yeah,
was. Talk a little bit about that, if you could.
sure. So, um, I think that high school theater in particular, you're right, can be brushed aside as just an extracurricular. And to anyone who participates in it or is part of that world knows that it's anything but just an extracurricular. It's a way of life. It's a way of looking at life. It's a way of being and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. You become more human. You become more empathetic. There are a million reasons why kids should be doing theater. And so advocacy of that is a really hard thing to do. But in order to get people in the seats of a show, it depends on the school district. I'm very lucky. I don't have a huge problem getting people to come to our shows, but I know that's not for everyone, and
Sure.
that's not the case for everyone. I came from a district that it was very hard to get people in the seats, and I think it's a part of the community culture,
Sure.
and so I wanted to as you said, level that playing field a little bit and try to make it so that more people were attending these shows, no matter what your zip code was, and no matter where you go to school, arts would be important, and you would be valued, and a valued person in the community, because you are, exposing people to ideas that they might not have walked in with.
Sure.
And also, there are students that don't realize that this could be a career path for them, and that realizing that that you can be successful and this might be the right thing to do might be hard when there are very few people in that audience. So advocacy is directly tied to ESAG. And a lot of districts like having the accolades and like having things to boast about, which then leads to promotion of the program. Sports, that's easy. If a team wins, they promote it. And teams are winning every day because you have a million sports teams. So sports are a really easy thing to boast about, because I guarantee on any given day, there's going to be a team winning. One of your teams is going to win, and you can boast about it. But in the performing arts, you really have to wait until a performance to boast. And so
superintendents love badges. They love those things that say our kids are blue ribbon whatevers. We're blue ribbon ceramicists at this school. We can throw a pot like nobody. It's great. But the idea that accolades and attention, positive attention is a good thing for any program.
I realized that if we had accolades and we had awards for the plays, then that would in turn help support those programs and continue them, and hopefully prevent them from being cut in budget cuts, because they were providing some sort of positive attention for the district. So the idea was that every school would have something to bring back to their districts and say, here, look at what we did, and help us grow the program, or help us, continue to fund us, or continue to support us. Maybe come to one of the shows. If you didn't come to one of our shows, hey, look, we just got this award. Maybe next time you'll join us. Or maybe they can put it in a newsletter, and then someone in the community could say, oh, wow, maybe our theater program is doing really well. Let me go see one of the shows. It only takes one little snippet for someone to realize that they don't have anything to do that day, and maybe they go to the show, and or maybe they take their kid who's now interested in theater, and they're like, oh, you know what? Last spring, I remember the theater department got that award. Maybe we should see what is in store for you down the line. So that was a big part of creating ESAG, and trying to give students as many opportunities through ESAG as possible to be highlighted. So one of the things that we did that first year was give the students with the highest ratings an opportunity to perform a monologue, which, to my knowledge, is very rarely done in public. Most monologues are performed for auditions and in class. Very few, and there are very few monologues that are performed even in the realm of a play. I mean, maybe you have one monologue throughout the entire play, or two monologues. There are very few plays out there that are giant monologues, except for Shakespeare and more classical plays. But or maybe just heavy writers. I was hoping to put a more raw version of what students are doing every day in their theater classes out there, and also bring awareness to the fact that, hey, this is what we are doing in theater classes, and maybe you should continue our theater classes because what we're doing is important work. And maybe that was the first time a parent ever saw a student perform a monologue. Maybe another student from another school could hear a monologue at ESAG and go, oh my God, I love that monologue. Let me put that in my rep for next time, or maybe I could use that for an audition, and people could start learning from each other. So that was kind of our idea for the first year.
Right.
We were trying
And
to see
then,
what was going to stick.
right. And then last year it became a movable feast and moved to Iona, and you had 14 theater
Right.
programs and 16 productions. And I still remember, I mean, there were a couple of performances that stuck out for me, Kate Sullivan from Brewster doing that bit as Salieri from Amadeus was amazing. And the girl from Scarsdale who did the Mrs. Bennet
Yep.
monologue, that flighty thing from Pride and Prejudice, was hilarious. And it was the kind of thing where it was a monologue, but she had kids, her daughters all around her, and she was just ricocheting all over that place. It was so much fun to watch, and the event became more of a performance kind of thing, which was great because yes, they're getting certificates honoring the work that they had done, but you also did get a flavor of what they had on stage at that time. Now this year, you're moving to Tarrytown Music Hall, and it's a couple weeks earlier. It's April 20th at the
Yeah.
music hall. And you've got 32 schools, I gather, right? So tell
Yes.
me about this year and what you've got cooked up.
Sure. So we have 32 schools signed up, and not all of them are going to attend because some of them are a little further out. But Christina Bowerly sent out a massive email. She is the queen of all emails. I have never met anyone better at email than Christina Bowerly. But she sent just a gigantic email out to every theater teacher she could possibly find in New Jersey, Connecticut, Westchester, and Long Island. She spent her entire summer finding email addresses.
Wow.
So in September, we sent out just a gigantic email, letting everyone know what we're about. We had pictures from last time, from the previous 2 years. I made a website so we could have something that that made it seem more official. And I also reached out to Pam Paraso from Broadway Teachers Workshop, and she sent out a blast also to everyone who participates in BTW, which is something I've been going to for 15 years. It's the
Mhm.
best use of your summer ever. I highly recommend everyone go to Broadway Teachers Workshop. But that also really helped boost our numbers, because then it was sent out to we knew that people were getting it because everyone signs up for that newsletter. So that also helped promote a lot. So thank you, Pam, for helping us and promoting us. And yeah, we are restructuring the ceremony now, because if we had every school perform monologues that are 2 to 3 minutes each, and if we have 25 schools that actually attend, that's a long, long program. So,
Right.
um, thankfully, not every school is going to have someone performing a monologue, but we're cutting it down to 2 minutes instead of
Mhm.
the longer bit that we are having. And we're also going to organize it by school.
Mhm.
So the school will come up together. So, we'll say something, we'll say a blurb about the program and the show while they make their way to the stage. They will get all of their awards together,
Mhm.
and then we'll sprinkle in the monologues. I just think it's easier to organize that way. And then the other thing, and thanks to you actually, is the way that the way that students were evaluated. Because we had a big brainstorming session earlier this year,
Mhm.
and we were trying to find a way to make ESEG better and grow. And you should always be reflective about everything you do, and nothing you do is ever going to be perfect. Um, and we ended up using your idea, and we there is no more ranking in a way. It's more of a grade. So
Mhm.
be students are nominated for certain categories, and then they receive gold with recognition, gold, silver, or bronze. And that
Mhm.
way they can receive very, very specific feedback because our judges were fantastic. I can't believe we got as many judges as we did, but they were really, really detailed with the feedback that they were giving. So that was
Mhm.
the other thing about this. We wanted students to grow from the experience as well.
Uh,
So
uh, Can you walk me through, Cyndi? So your production last year, you did the Crucible in the fall.
yeah,
So the teacher nominates um, based on what they have. So they'll
right.
nominate their stage manager or their best actor in a leading role, actor in a supporting role. Take me through. So just in the briefest kind of sense,
Sure.
this is how I nominated. This is what and this is how the judges evaluated it. They're looking at video, I would imagine, right, of the
Yeah.
performance.
So yeah, that we send the video. We make a little folder. So every school submits a folder with the video, some pictures, the program, some areas that they want looked at, and then the judges will adjudicate based on rubrics that are very specific for every single category, give
Mhm.
feedback, and then return it to us. So it's a very simple process, and it also takes the people organizing it, because we're all teachers and we all want to participate in it, out of the
Right.
equation of doing any sort of evaluating, because that wouldn't be fair. So
Yeah.
we're trying to make it as objective as possible. So the judges can't know the school in advance. There can't be any sort of friendship between us
Right.
and the judge, and that's the most objective way we could possibly think of doing it.
So for example, like one of the I'm just trying to think of so Joe Blut's Eastchester, they did the Three Musketeers, the Ken Ludwig Three Musketeers last year. So Joe nominates his leading actor or actors in a leading role. I guess are there several in that? And
So you can there are two ways to go about it. It's up to the teacher what they want to do, but you can ask the judge what they think should be adjudicated if you're not sure, or
Mhm,
you can put the categories forward yourself.
mhm. So you could so I'm sorry. So you could go in blind. You could go in and say, evaluate this entire production, and you tell me who stands out to you, that sort of thing. Well,
Correct.
that's cool. That
Yeah.
it's do you know Tri-States Consortium?
No.
So Tri-States is an educational evaluation program, and they'll so like a superintendent can say, I have an ESL program that I want to fund, and I want to make sure that it's doing the right thing. They invite them in. They say, this is what we want to be looked at. We want you to do interviews. They come in and they basically do a soup to nuts evaluation, and they will and it's the idea, and it's very much along the lines of what you've got here, which is like critical friends, the idea of this is how we want to be judged, but judged with knowing where we come from, where we are, and how we can get to the next step, sort of thing. So
Right. And
that
that's a huge part of leveling that playing field, because we know that not every program is funded equally. So
right.
how can you possibly put a district whose budget is $10,000 versus a district whose budget is $60,000 together in a category? That
Sure.
you just can't. Um,
Right.
so that was part of our change
Right.
in doing.
What I think I love about ESAG um, is is that it recognizes that the arts are a continuum, that you are at Rye Neck, you might be at D, and another program which is just starting out, which has a first year teacher, is at A, and you're going to work your way along that continuum. And there are, I don't have to tell you this. There are years when you've got kids, and there are years when you don't have kids, and there are the way you evaluate that. I think the beauty of this model is that it evaluates you where you are, and you can say, listen, I want you to look at this. I want you to look at the work my stage manager did, or the work my set crew did on this, or whatever. You can pick that. And
Right.
I think the beauty of that is that it's the idea is recognizing the kids, recognizing the work, and seeing how things where you are right now. It's a barometer of where you are at that moment, right?
Yeah. And I think that's that's the way that we're going to continue for
Yeah.
now. For the foreseeable future. I like how it feels. It feels comfy. It feels like home in this space right now.
Yeah.
But we're a growing organization, and every year, we get another teacher who wants to help. And it started out with literally just me and Christina, and then we branched out to Brady Clark and Kelly Bayer, and then we branched out even more with Joe and Barbara, and now we have Carolyn Wright from Fordham Prep, and every year we are just growing and growing. So I'm excited to see who else wants to help us with this. But I think the goal is not to again make it compete with any other program. We want this to be a standalone thing where if you have a kid that is really excelling at acting and wants to just pursue acting, there's a place for them, and there's a way to make that kid feel important in a season where when your friends are getting recognized for being the best singer, you can also feel like you're being honored and recognized.
That's great. That's great. So this year you 32 schools, many performances, many awards being handed out. The schools already know what they were nominated for. Do they already know who's receiving an award? They do.
They just don't know. We still don't have back all of the adjudication forms yet. That's the due date's April 8th. So the schools will be finding out what the rating is on April 10th.
Gotcha. And based on those ratings, so the gold with distinction or gold with recognition will be performing. Is that right?
Correct. So, no, actually, we actually took that away as well, because let's say a kid didn't have their best performance, but they are a standout student to their teacher. We wanted to give them even a second chance, an additional chance. So the teacher can put forth anyone who wants to perform a monologue. It could be anyone playing any role, as long as it's one person per school.
Great. And how many categories do you have this year? Do you know?
It's the exact same. I think we have 16 categories, something like that. We're trying to adjust them because some categories never get anything. So we might have to put some categories to bed, but we're after the awards ceremony, we'll have another board meeting, and we'll figure out, which awards need to be changed or tweaked or anything like that. What I don't want is to be an organization where we're like, well, we always do it this way. So, we're kind of stuck. That's just not how life works. So we should we should reflect how life really works and adapt and change from year to year.
Well, that's great. So I always like to have a takeaway for people and when I said it in my text to you yesterday, people who need to have their head examined because they're thinking of starting something like this. But think about what you've learned along the way, and you've learned so much, and you're continuing to learn about this. Are there takeaways for you in having created something from nothing except you and an email goddess? How you made this happen? What you've learned that could be instructive for other people who are considering taking something like this on?
Yeah, I would say if you have an idea, just go for it. And if you feel really strongly about something or about creating something that doesn't exist, then go do it. Go make it. Go make it happen. Because it's very yes, it's very challenging to get it off the ground, and it took us the 3 years, which in the scheme of life is not that long. It took us time to build, but don't give up. If you only have 7 schools the first year, that doesn't mean anything. And if you we hit many roadblocks, and we just found alternative routes. Don't consider anything a dead end. There's another way around it. And someone once said something to me that has always stuck with me. Behind every dead end is a path that keeps going. And
like that.
That always stuck with me because, yes, it's a sign, but there's something behind that sign. So it's not really a dead end. And so that and when plan A fails, use plan 1. Those 2 things have always stuck with me. And also, it's really, really easy to create with theater people because we are. I love coming from my ESAG board meetings because all of us are creators. That is how our brains work. And my advice, if you want to go create something, go find a bunch of theater people and fill that room with theater people, because that is how you get things done. We know how to work with a budget. We know how to create from nothing. We know how to collaborate. We know how to manage our time. It's like Josh Groban said, go hire a theater kid, because
there you go.
You know how to get the job done.
That's awesome. Well, so the awards are April 20th at Tarrytown Music Hall. What time are they on the 20th?
6 p.m. And for any theater teacher, we are getting together in Tarrytown on the 19th at 5 p.m. Location TBD, so that educators can just get together and get to know each other.
That's awesome. So the your website address is
easternstudentartistguild.org.
And is it artist singular?
Yes.
easternstudentartistguild.org. Okay, so listeners, check that out, and I imagine there's a contact thing there, or people wanted to get in touch with you to learn more about this.
Yes, we are easternstudentartistguild@gmail.com.
At Gmail. Well, there you go. If it's Gmail, it must be official. See, there's more gravitas.
I know. And no numbers. We were the only one. We are the only Eastern Student Artist Guild out there.
Because who else would come up with that mouthful like that?
Exactly. And it all started with the WAGs, when everyone I said, they were like, that's a terrible name.
Well, I think you've got one that's stuck for, at least for 3 years. So that's
ESAG. It's easy to say.
Great. Well, Cyndi Feinman, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today on Lights Up, the high school theater podcast. A shameless plug to my continuing coverage on Substack, petekramer.substack.com. And also just a shout out that the Pedro's Open Mic will be May 16th at Harrison High School. That's a celebration of all things musical from across Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties. So do check that out. And we will talk again soon. Thank you so much, Cyndi. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting the arts.
That's better.